The Batfoot Podcast is starting in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome in, everyone, to our first 2026 episode of the Batfoot Podcast. Damian, Matt here with you today. Hope you guys enjoyed the new intro video right there. Tried to flip it up a little bit. If there's any other bat flips that you guys want to see in that, maybe I'll add them in. Let us know. But anyways, we're here to catch up on, I think our last episode was, December 15th, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is like 3 weeks from our last episode. So tons to catch up on, some big, some small. It's been a weird market. Felt like it's been really slow. Then when I was going back through, getting all this stuff ready, it's like, it's actually a lot that's happened that we have to catch up on. So before we get into all that, though, Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing okay. Hope everyone out there had a good Christmas and New Year's, and baseball's right around the corner, so that'll be cool. Lots of sports news going on right now. The NFL playoffs about to start. The NHL is in full swing. Basketball's going on, I guess. I don't care about basketball that much unless it's my Auburn Tigers playing, but they kind of stink this year. So it's a lot of sports going on, so that's always good, and ready to get into it today.
Yeah, it's college football bowl season, so that's been fun. The Pop-Tarts Bowl had more viewers than the NBA Conference Finals, which is hilarious to say. But it's been a weird couple weeks. I'll say that. Like, I hope everyone enjoyed their holiday. First off, this time of the year is always fun and nice to spend time with family and stuff. But man, there was some weird football going on. My team didn't do too great, so I don't want to keep talking about it there. But it is baseball. First of the year is kind of when you get that thing of like, okay, well, we're like a month away from spring training now, so things need to start picking up. There's still a ton of free agents out there that need to sign. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with those guys. I mean, we're starting to get to the point where now it's like, well, they might take the short-term high AAV kind of pillow contracts type thing with opt-outs there. So be something to track. But let's get into what we're talking about. So here, if you're looking for either Michael King or Munetaka Murakami, we did quick flips episodes on those already. So go back to the channel. You can find our discussion on those guys back there. We won't really hit on them much here. So we have this still broken up into some other things. We'll hit with smaller stuff first, get to some other ones, kind of get to the more interesting, bigger signings. Then we'll hit on trades. Then we have some other news to kind of wrap up the show. But Matt, we're looking at small signings. I'll kind of do what I did last time. I'll list these out. You kind of give me one or two that you're kind of a little bit interested in. We can go from there. So Andrew Kisner to the Seattle Mariners, 1 year, $1 million. Jordan Romano to the Angels, 1 year, $2 million. Gregory Santos went to the Giants on a minor league deal. Tyler Austin went to the Cubs on a 1 year, $1.25 million deal. Ian Hamilton signed with the Braves on a split contract. JJ Bleday went to the Reds on a 1 year for $1.4 million, and then Kirby Yates went to the Angels on a 1 year, $5 million deal. So any of those that kind of interest you?
Yeah, I think Tyler Austin's pretty interesting. He's been over in, I believe Japan for the last 4 or 5 years. He hadn't played in the big leagues in a while. And, he's kind of one of those quad A guys when he was here, and he's killed it in Japan. So we have seen occasionally somebody will go over there and kill it and come back and be really good. It's a little bit more typical probably of pitchers than hitters, but we have seen it before. Eric Thames is a good example. He turned into a pretty good big league hitter after playing in Asia I don't remember if he was in Japan or Korea, but after a couple years there, he turned into a good big league hitter for the Brewers. So, we'll see if that ends up, coming to fruition for the Cubs. Tyler Austin, talented guy, a lot of power. So that'll be interesting. And then I think the other one I'd be pretty interested in is JJ Bleday. He was pretty bad last year for the A's, but he only played 98 games. In 2024 for the A's, he had a great season, put up 3.2 WAR. He still got the projections of a above league average hitter by some of the projection systems this year. So that's going to be interesting to see if he's able to get back to his 2024 form. Because if he is, that's a good hitter's ballpark in Cincinnati. He could be a solid player for them, former top draft pick. Plays all the outfield spots at a at least okay level. I think he could be a good pickup for them. So those are out of the other guys. Most of them are relievers that probably won't be very good, but I guess they could.
Yeah.
Never know relievers. But those are the
I'll,
two.
s- I'll say a couple of mine are relievers. Gregory Santos is one that I have been a fan of. He had one season where he's actually pitched more than 7 innings, basically. That was 2023, the White Sox. He had a 3.39 ERA, a 3.15 xERA, a 2.65 FIP, and a 3.31 xFIP. And then both years since, he's pitched 7 1/3 and 7 innings. In 2024, 7 1/3. He still had, it was almost a 5 ERA, but a 3.01 xERA, very small sample size. FIP 2.35 and then a 3.38 xFIP. He was really bad this year, but it was only, again, in only 7 innings. He didn't strike anyone out with a high walk rate. So I just think this guy is a lot better than what this 2025 7-inning season sample is. I hated he went to the Giants. And then the other one is Jordan Romano. He's a guy who I really expected to bounce back with the Phillies last year. And I know he has a negative, like almost negative half WAR for it, but his peripherals were not nearly as bad as what the actual numbers look like. He had an 8.23 ERA, but a 3.99 expected ERA. He had a 5.39 FIP, but a 4.33 xFIP. Like, this is a guy who I take another year off the injuries on a 1-year, $2 million deal. That's what we have to think about. A $2 million deal. He's someone who could bring a lot of value to that Angels bullpen if he's able to bounce back the way fully. So those are just a couple of them that I really do find pretty interesting.
Yeah, one note on Santos. He was on the 2021 Giants, which was Buster Posey's last year. So Buster Posey's caught him before. He only pitched a couple innings in the big leagues, but I'm sure he was a part of spring training and everything there. So kind of an interesting thought there that Buster Posey's seen him up close and in person before.
Yeah, and you'll see a little trend here, Buster Posey and some pitchers, and the type of pitchers he's kind of going for here, which is pretty interesting. So okay, let's jump down to the next kind of group. And I have these kind of labeled as more interesting signings. So first one is Foster Griffin going to the Nationals, 1 year, $5.5 million deal. Jason Foley going to the Giants on a 1 year, $2 million deal. Chris Martin went to the Rangers on a 1 year deal. I didn't remember to look up the money on that one, but I don't think it's too terrible much. The Rangers didn't have a ton to work with anyways. Drew Pomerantz, 1 year, $4 million to the Angels. Dustin May to the Cardinals, 1 year, $12.5 million deal. There's a $20 million mutual option on that deal. Blows my mind there, but hey, it's something. Sean Armstrong went to the Guardians, 1 year, $5.5 million. Sun Moon Song went to the San Diego Padres, 4 years, $15 million. Sean Newcomb to the White Sox, 1 year, $4.5 million. Jacob Webb and Hunter Harvey both to the Cubs. Harvey on a 1 year, $6 million deal. Jacob Webb on a $1.5 million deal. So kind of cheap contracts here. The Dustin May one's the most expensive, obviously, and then the Sun Moon Song one there. But Matt, which ones kind of jump up to you here?
I think that Chris Martin is a guy that I've been pretty high on at times. He was still pretty good last year. His numbers did dip a little bit. He had a great ERA. The peripherals were down. 2024 was kind of the opposite. He had a good ERA in 2024, but his peripherals were really good. He hates walking guys. I always like that. He's had success in Texas before, so that's a plus. I think and anytime you can add a Dustin May type of guy that's a former super high end prospect to a rotation that on a team like the Cardinals that are kind of starting to go into a true rebuild here. I think that adding that guy can be something worth doing, especially the Cardinals aren't going to spend just tons and tons of money, but they're also not a small market team that's going to be in the bottom 5 of payroll. We're not talking about them like we talk about the Rays and the Pirates and the, sometimes with the Reds and whoever else might be in that bucket. They're a much higher payroll team than that. So using that payroll to bring in some flyers on guys who, if Dustin May ever finally has a healthy season, I mean, he's got that pedigree. In fact, in 2023, before he got injured, he had a 2.63 ERA in his in the start to his season. So, we'll see what happens. His stuff's still good, but out of the others, I mean, I don't know too much about a lot of them. Drew Pomeranz has been good at times. Angels needed relievers. The Cubs adding a little bit of bullpen depth there. Hunter Harvey's kind of interesting. I don't know anything about Sungmin Song, but I haven't researched him too much. But you might be able to elaborate on that one a little bit. And then I can't believe Sean Newcomb has another major league contract, to be honest.
Dude, Sean Newcomb was good last year.
Really? I didn't even notice.
He was good. He was with the A's.
That's why I didn't notice.
He got traded over there from Boston. He was decent, but with the A's in 51 innings, he had a 1.75 ERA and a 2.69 FIP, with 2.69 xERA and 3.35 FIP. He was legitimately good. I mean, his numbers as a total last year were a 2.73 ERA.
I had not even thought of Sean Newcomb as still being in the big leagues. It's hard to believe he's 32 years old too.
Right. You know, when you have those guys who are like, you're kind of a fan of, even though they've never played on your team, and they're not good, but like, you know, they're not worthy of like, hey, that you should be a fan of that guy. I don't know why. Sean Newcomb has always kind of been that for me. I always thought like, he's always someone I just enjoyed, even though he was bad. Like, I always felt like he'd be good. So I kind of tune in a little bit more when it's still Sean Newcomb there. But the two, you mentioned Song there. He is someone who I had noted as someone I'm pretty interested in. Going to the Padres, I think, is a great fit for him too. He is a guy who could play a bunch of infield spots, second, third. He can even moonlight at short and first base a little bit if you needed him to. But the thing is with him, he has had a track record of not being very good, right? In his KBO time from, anyone where he played about 60 games from 2018 to 2023, he had a WRC plus of over 91 once. That was 2018 when he played 78 games. Other than that, it was very, very little. And then 2024 happened, and he seemed to find his power stroke a little bit more, made a bunch of contact, hit 340 that year in the KBO, 19 homers, 21 stolen bases, 143 WRC plus. Then he came over in 2025, again, 26 homers that year, 25 stolen bases at the age of 28, hit 315, a 151 WRC plus. He's a guy who is kind of a late bloomer over there. Has really found his stroke. It's going to be really interesting to see how he comes over. A lot of people expected him, or, we're kind of comparing him to a Ha-Sung Kim or a Hai-Sung Kim, the two Kims that have came over. And they say his bat's probably a little bit more advanced than those guys were at the time, trying to transition it over. Not quite as much as probably Seiya Suzuki's was, when he came over from the NPB. But kind of in between those two. A little bit better than Ha-Sung Kim, but worse than Seiya Suzuki. But a lot of it is we haven't seen KBO guys really transition over to MLB very often and do it very well. It's kind of the skepticism behind the contract. Going to play more of a utility role over there, it sounds like, but he is someone who I do find very interesting. And then Foster Griffin, coming over back from the NPB. I just find it more interesting than I think I don't know if he's going to be good. I'm interested to see how it goes though. Because he went over there and he turned himself into a pretty dang good starter. His 3 years, 2.75 ERA, a 3.01. And then this last year in 78 innings, 162 ERA. It's going to be, you see this from time to time, like Merrill Kelly went over there, came back and was a pretty solid, pitcher. You don't expect to be an ace, but Merrill Kelly's turned himself into probably a decent 2 or 3. Foster Griffin could be maybe a 4 or 5. For a Nats team that, they're just looking for anything at this moment. Sign him to a 1-year deal. If he's good, maybe you flip him at the deadline, get a solid prospect or something anyways. So those are kind of the two that I wanted to highlight really there as that I find pretty interesting. So let's take a minute real quick before we jump onto the other ones and tell you guys to don't forget to like and subscribe to these videos. Help push us out to more of the algorithm. I was doing some research the other day on our channel so far and how we've looked, and we've had a decent amount of growth over the last year. So we thank you guys for that. But one thing I found interesting, out of everyone who watches our videos, 90% of you people are not subscribed. 90%. That's a lot. So just make sure you hit the subscribe button right there. Just help us out. If you're already watching, gives you better access to our videos, let you know when we're going live, or puts it on your feed more. Just hit right there and then like on this video. That's all you got to do. Helps us out. So, all right. Let's move on to kind of the other ones, and we'll kind of hit these one by one, but we can kind of move through them pretty quickly. So first off, Caleb Thielbar re-signs on the Cubs on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal.
Caleb Thielbar had a great season last year, pitched for the Cubs for the entire season. His walk rate was way down. He actually didn't get as much swing and miss as he has gotten in the past. So that was kind of interesting. But he had a 2.64 ERA on the season. He had a career high ground ball percentage with the exception of a 5-inning stint in 2015. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does. I don't know that he'll repeat what he did last year, but I think he's probably a pretty good reliever at least. So I think, it's something for the Cubs. 1 year, $4.5 million. That's kind of in the range of that kind of middle reliever who, has some potential, but probably isn't, a top end middle reliever. So I think it's pretty good value there for the Cubs and a nice signing.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty solid for them. I liked that deal when he went over there. He did better than I was expecting. Easy enough deal to kind of come back there. Next one is Adrian Hauser signing a 2-year, $22 million deal with the San Francisco Giants. It's kind of what we were talking about with the whole Buster Posey thing. He didn't catch Adrian Hauser at all, but he's kind of doing these lower risk kind of signings. $11 million for a back end rotation arm at this moment is not bad. And Adrian Hauser had a pretty decent year last year. Didn't strike a ton of people out. That's never really been his game, but he induces soft contact. He's a 50-50 ground ball pitcher playing in Oracle Park, should help him a ton anyways. 3.31 ERA, 3.81 FIP, 4.03 expected ERA, 4.30 FIP, 2.5 or almost 2.5 WAR. It's kind of fine for a 5-starter over there. So it's pretty decent.
Totally fine. You mentioned the ground ball rate. And I want to mention his velocity was up at a career high last year, and it was actually up 1.5 mile per hour and a half over what it was in 2024. So that's something to keep an eye on, is he was a lot harder last year and it led to more success for him. So we'll see if he's able to continue that trend.
Yeah, 32. That's the hardest he's ever thrown in his career. So it's something to watch for. The next one, Caleb Ferguson signing a 1-year, $4.5 million deal with the Reds. Caleb Ferguson's, pretty solid, decent left-handed relief pitcher. Was with the Pirates last year, then got traded to the Seattle Mariners at the deadline. He's going to give you a mid-3s ERA, basically. Maybe go into Great American Small Park. That might go up some more, but just another fine, relief pitcher there. We talked about when they signed Emilio Pagan that they needed more. They got another reliever.
Yeah, Caleb Ferguson is totally fine. The Reds just need depth in that bullpen. I don't think he's elite by any means, and I'm a little worried about him in that ballpark because last year's strikeout rate was down a pretty good bit. So I'm worried about him playing in Great American Ballpark with a 7 strikeout per 9 rate there. Right. But he had a good year last year. Gets the ball on the ground a lot, I think he's a solid signing, especially as we mentioned before that kind of cheap $4.5 million. He's a little bit similar to Caleb Thielbar to me, without maybe not quite as good of a year last year, but he's solid.
Yeah. The next one, Brad Keller signing a 2-year, $22 million deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. Brad Keller had a great season for the Chicago Cubs last year, almost 70 innings, a 2.07 ERA, 2.93 FIP. Peripherals were a little bit higher than both of those numbers, but backed it up a pretty decent amount. Found a bunch of velocity now that he went to the bullpen. He's up to the upper 90s, almost 10 strikeouts per 9. The walk rate was pretty decent. He's going to slot into that 8th inning role, most likely, right in front of Yohan Duran. And with Jose Alvarado, kind of 7th, 8th inning role there as the pure setups. I think it's a great deal. Brad Keller was awesome last year. I didn't see anything that he couldn't repeat. The only thing is his home run per 9 rate was a little bit low, and the home run per fly ball rate was a little bit low. Probably goes up a little bit, not playing in Wrigley, playing in Citizens Bank Park, but that's, again, home run rates are kind of fluky at times, especially for relievers. So I do find this as a really, really good deal. Gives them a bunch of firepower at the back end of that bullpen.
Yeah, I think this is a good deal as well. I think it's one of these next two are going to be case studies on, do you trust the track record or do you trust what you saw last year and the changes? And I think that Brad Keller, I think you trust the changes he made last year. I mean, that was really his first year just coming in as a full-time one-inning reliever. In 2024, he was mainly a reliever, but he was really a swingman most of the time that pitched multiple innings. Past year, he was really impressive in that role. So I think that's a good signing. 2 years, $22 million. You're kind of looking at what the top relievers on the market are getting, and that's a little bit under that. And I think that could play into good value here because, I mean, you look at I don't know why Brad Keller couldn't be like a Raisel Iglesias level reliever. And you're kind of getting him a lot cheaper and for multiple years here. He's only 20. He's 30 this year, so he's not a super old reliever either. He's been around a while, but he's not in his mid to late 30s. So I think it's a great signing for the Phillies. I mean, they need just to keep adding bullpen arms. It's kind of been an Achilles heel for them over their current contention window, and they needed to add him. So.
Yeah. Now let's talk about Luke Weaver, who signed the exact same deal, 2 years, $22 million in the same division with the New York Mets. And these deals happened like within an hour or two of each other. It was kind of bang, bang in there. Luke Weaver obviously coming over from the Yankees, 2 years as a full-time relief pitcher with the Yankees. And a lot of the numbers look pretty similar outside of, a lot of the underlying numbers. Strikeout rate per 9, walk rate per 9, home run per 9, all look pretty similar, batted average on balls in play. But yet 2024, he had a 2.89 ERA, 2025, a 3.62 ERA. The expected ERA in 2024 was 3.30, but then this year was 2.96. Like, it's kind of weird how those numbers are a little bit flipped when a lot of the underlying stuff looks pretty similar. So, if you'd said last year Luke Weaver was going to get, closer money, basically, people were thinking of him at that. Really struggled this year, came and got a, relief or a setup guy money, obviously now. But the Mets just recreating the Yankees bullpen there with Luke Weaver and Devin Williams in the back end.
Yeah, I don't like this signing at all for the Mets, considering what Brad Keller got. I would have much preferred to give Brad Keller $5 million more, total dollars than what they gave Luke Weaver.
It was the same contract. Could have just been the same contract.
Yeah. I know, that's what I'm saying. They gave him the same contract. I would have given Brad Keller more
Mm-hmm.
and to get him from the Phillies instead of paying Luke Weaver what they paid him. I don't think it was a very good deal at all for the Mets. I mean, Luke Weaver has 2 years of track record of being pretty good out of the bullpen, which is more than Brad Keller having his 1 year of track record. But Luke Weaver hadn't been near as good as Brad Keller. And I mean, last year, there's some red flags in his, ground, but he only got 27% ground balls last year. And it's not like this is some crazy strikeout guy or some crazy low walk rate guy. Like he's got he strikes guys out. He's pretty good at that. And he's pretty good at not walking guys, but he's not some elite level at either one of those. And if you got a 27% ground ball rate, you're going to give up some home runs. And I think that you just don't. I just don't understand why you would sign him to the same deal Brad Keller got. Like if you signed him for 1 year, $11 million, or you signed him for a little bit cheaper, like a 2 year, $18 million or something, maybe. But I think building your bullpen out of the Yankees relievers from last year is not the best option here. So.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting because these deals happened like almost within an hour of each other, so they were almost going down at similar times, right? Like. It's not like Keller's happened and then they were like, oh, that's Keller's number. Okay, Luke Weaver here's the same number. Like, there's probably already well past that. But it is interesting that they both worked out to get basically the exact same deal there. So next one is Rob Refsnyder going to the Mariners on a 1 year, $6.25 million deal. I think this is a great signing. Rob Refsnyder has turned into a legit, great platoon bat. He had a 132 WRC plus 2 years ago, a 128 WRC plus this year. He crushes left-handed pitching. I think that's going to fit very well in Seattle. It is going to be interesting. Right-handed hitting in the Marine layer has never really turned out to be, very good. But I do like this fit. It's pretty cheap. I thought Refsnyder was going to get close to $8 or $9 million. on the market. I think a lot of teams would have been pretty interested in him, but $6 million basically to the Mariners.
Yeah, I mean, this is a platoon outfielder all the way. You're not going to pay him, big time money because he's not going to play, but maybe 1 out of 4 games or 1 out of 3 games because he's playing against lefties only. But when he plays, he's going to be pretty good. So, I think it's a solid signing for them. I mean, you're paying about you're paying for a guy that you're hoping to put up about 1 WAR, and you're paying him about what. A little bit less than what 1 WAR is typically worth on the open market. So I think it's a good signing for them. And we'll see if he, we'll see if there's any more to his role than just hitting lefties. But I think that's probably going to end up being what it is.
Yeah, next one is another one that I found really fascinating was Ryan O'Hearn going to the Pirates on a 2-year, $29 million deal. Ryan O'Hearn is a guy, former 8th round pick from the Kansas City Royals, got traded to the Baltimore Orioles in the offseason of 2022 to 2023. Ever since he went to Baltimore, though, he turned himself into a legitimate hitter, a 118 WRC plus 2023, 118 in 2024. Then in 2025, before he got traded at the deadline, he had a 135 WRC plus, a 112 when he went to the Padres. But this guy's he's going to be hit you probably 20 plus homers if he plays every day, which I'm assuming the Pirates are probably going to play him every day. He was more of a platoon bat in Baltimore and San Diego. But the Pirates, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about another move they did, but Pirates are making moves this year.
Yeah, they're doing some stuff. I don't think that they're doing enough right now to really be a contender, but Ryan O'Hearn's been really solid the last couple of years. Kind of found his footing in Baltimore in that 2023 team and has kind of just kept it going. Last year was really good. 127 WRC plus, played pretty good defense at first base as well. And
he played a little bit outfield.
And he played a little bit of outfield. But you can fit him in at DH, first base, outfield. I mean, the Pirates just need bats, and that's what this guy is. He's going to hit right-handed pitching really well. He's just a good bat. So get hits for a decent enough power. Not a huge power guy especially for a left-handed hitting first baseman, but solid player. I think he's going to be good for them, and he just adds some depth and legitimacy to their lineup right now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Pete Fairbanks is another reliever who we've kind of been tracking on the market. Like, a lot of the back-end relievers had went. Pete Fairbanks is one that kind of really lingered on the market. I think he actually signed on Christmas Day, I believe, to a 1-year, $13 million deal with the Miami Marlins to become their closer. So staying in the state of Florida, obviously was with the Rays, then went to the Marlins. I think his option was it $11 million? I want to say. So I think he got $2 extra million there. Don't know why the Rays just didn't pick it up and trade him, obviously. But I think it's going to be it's no risk move, right? The Marlins, you get a guy who can come in, has been very good before. He's going to pitch in a dome, or in a roofed stadium, I guess. It has the retractable roof, but he's going to pitch in good conditions, basically. And you can trade him at the deadline, which, the cold has potentially been an issue for him with his fingers before, and that nerve issue he has playing in Miami all year. You could trade him at the deadline, get a solid piece for him, and then move on.
Yeah, I think, back in when the Marlins made their front office change and they brought in the guy from the Rays,
Peter Bendix.
Yeah, you thought kind of, what? It feels like the Marlins are going to try to be the Rays. And it's kind of working. I mean, last year they piecemealed a team together out of guys that were, kind of unheralded or, post-type prospects or, just solid players, found ways to use them. And, they were close to 500 at the end of the season, a team that was projected to be in the, 100-loss type of season. And, adding guys like Pete Fairbanks, who is a, hard throwing, very solid reliever. I mean, he was really good last year. Got a great track record. I mean, I think it's great for them, and spending a little bit of money. I mean, $13 million for a player, even on a 1-year deal, isn't nothing for a reliever for the Marlins. So, I think that kind of if you look at kind of long term for the Marlins too, if they can start winning some games down there at some point and not sell off their team, I think the Marlins are a market that could grow a lot quicker than than Tampa's grown, because they've got a good stadium, and I think Miami is hungry for a baseball team that cares, and I don't think they've had one before. So we'll see if maybe they can be the Rays with a little bit higher payroll ceiling. I don't think the Marlins are ever going to be top spenders or anything, but we've seen it a couple times before where they might go make a few splashes here or there when they thought they might have a competitive window coming, and it just didn't work out, and they were quick to sell and all kinds of stuff. But got to be interesting. Pete Fairbanks, though, is a good signing for them, and I think he'll do well.
Yeah. Another one, Zach Eflin, going back to the Baltimore Orioles on a 1-year, $10 million deal. The Orioles, we've talked about, have needed pitching. I think they should still be in on pitching more at the top of the rotation. Eflin is a guy who got traded over in 2024 from the Tampa Bay Rays at the deadline, was pretty solid to end the 2024 season in his 55 innings, but his history of dealing with injuries cropped back up in 2025. Was limited to 14 games. The strikeout numbers kind of really tanked. And the overall numbers weren't good, but it's a $1 million, $10 or $1 million. It's a 1-year, $10 million deal, which, like what we're talking about, for a back end 5-starter that has some potential to be, right around that 4 to 5 range.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad at all. The Orioles should still be on more pitching. You need more pitching anyways. This just gives them a 6th guy, basically, that you're not going to fully count on due to the injury history.
Yeah, Zach Eflin's just 2 years removed from being borderline elite with the Rays in 2023. And it's not like he's 37, 38 years old. He's still he's still in his prime age-wise. Last year was pretty injury-ridden. So I think that but the Orioles have a lot of data on him. He's been there for half season in 2024, and he was there last year as well. It'll be interesting to see. I think there's a pretty good chance that they're able to kind of not fix him necessarily, but he'll rebound to a certain level and be at that 4, that 4-starter range. But there could be a little bit more in there. We've seen him just have huge years before.
Yeah, it's just the risk with the injury history for sure. But another guy has a track record of injury history, getting the same deal. Tyler Mahle getting a 1-year, $10 million deal from the San Francisco Giants. Mahle was very good last year with the Texas Rangers. In his 16 games, he had a 2.18 ERA, but peripherals don't back up quite as much as what he did. Over 4 expected ERA, a 3.37 FIP, but over 4 xFIP, almost 2 WAR. His strikeout numbers also went down. It was under 7 strikeouts per 9. His walk rate was pretty high, over 3 per 9 there. So it'll be interesting. He's going to, he was in Texas, going to San Francisco, another hitter-friendly or pitcher-friendly park for him. I could see Mahle being pretty decent too. But again, it's another thing of this guy has injury history. He hasn't pitched more than 100 innings since 2022.
Yeah, I mean, Tyler Mahle's a guy that I've always kind of felt was pretty good. I thought with Cincinnati, he was solid. I thought he would be good when he got to Minnesota. I thought he'd be good when he got to Texas, and he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And, really it's a shame because, I mean, you look at the one healthy season he's had was 2021, and he was really good. He had 4 wins above replacement. It was his breakout year. And last year he actually pitched in 86 innings. So he had at least somewhat of a decent workload last year, and he had a great ERA, but the peripherals just weren't there. Really lucky on home run rate. 4.9% home run per fly ball rate is incredibly low. That's probably not going to be kept up. Although, when you look at, the Giants ballpark,
San Francisco,
it could. But, it's not like he's some 50%, 55% ground ball guy to put up a great home run rate. Like he's going to give up some home runs. And, I think that'll come back to the norm a little bit. I think he'll probably bounce back with his strikeout rate a little bit too. I mean, he's a career it's typically been at least a strikeout per inning. And, these last couple of years with some injuries in there, and, he hadn't been quite that. So it'll be interesting to see, what he does in San Francisco. He'll at least add depth for them. It's kind of a similar thing to Zach Eflin, where that he'll probably be good enough to be in the big leagues and be a 5-starter and hopefully throw some innings, as long as he's healthy. But I don't know how. I'd probably prefer the Eflin upside just a little bit more at this point.
Yeah, that one's tough because I do like Molly more, but I trust Eflin more. Like that's where we're at. So it'll be interesting to see. And if any of my luck, I agree with what you said. Like Molly's always a guy I thought was pretty good. Now he's going to the Giants, which means he's going to be very good, and he's just going to do it too, despite me. So, all right, let's talk about the 2 big free agent signings that everyone wants to do that we probably should have did quick flips for, but they happened in the middle of freaking holiday season that doesn't allow very good timing. So let's start with Tatsuya Imai. This happened on New Year's Day. I was at my buddy's house getting ready to watch the Oregon kickoff against Texas Tech, and my phone just starts blowing up with Tatsuya Imai to the Houston Astros, of all people, for 3 years, $59 million. There's opt-outs every year, so he can opt out after year 1 and after year 2. There is incentives in the deal to get to $63 million, and if he hits that incentive one time, they all collect. So if he hits it the first year, he automatically, that turns into a 3-year, $63 million deal no matter what. He doesn't have to hit it the next 2. Imai is a very interesting category because a lot of people, there's about a 50-50 split if a lot of people think he's a ace or 2-level person, and then you talk to a lot of people who's like, he's a 5, maybe a spot starter type. A lot of worry about his slider, which is a very different kind of slider. It kind of backs up in a weird way. But it is very good and effective at times. Fastball's pretty decent. I think I'm in the kind of the range of, I think he's going to be a 2 or a 3. Like, I don't think he's going to be an ace level guy. He doesn't throw, if I remember right, he doesn't throw particularly hard. Right now, this doesn't have his stuff on there. I think he can reach 99, but I think he's more in the mid-90s range. There's a lot of variability in there. A lot of people say he turns it up when he needs to and he kind of settles it back down. Like sometimes he's throwing 90 with his fastball, and then other times he'll throw it up there, but he generally sits in the mid-ish 90s, like around the 93 to 95-ish range. His changeup, and splitter are pitches that you expect to even get better over here. That's a typical pitch for the Japanese players coming over, but he throws both. He throws a splitter and a changeup, which is pretty interesting because not many people do that because they are effectively the same. So it'll be really interesting to see how he does transition over to the major leagues. Houston is a place that, they're losing Framber Valdez. It's a decent deal, but it's not too long of a deal. You don't have to commit, 6 years to it. The odds are Imai comes over, and if he's decent like people think he is, he opts out of the first year. You offer him a qualifying offer, and if he leaves, whatever, you get a pick for him. And if he doesn't, then you got another decent guy.
Yeah, this feels so much like Kodai Senga coming over from Japan. The contract he got a couple of last years, but I think it's a little bit more AAV than what Kodai Senga got. And I think that I definitely think this is going to be one to watch because there's a world where Imai is like an ace level pitcher. I agree with that. Like, he throws hard. I think one of the big differences between him and some of the other Japanese pitchers we've seen is he doesn't just throw like fastball. He doesn't just have like a really good splitter. He's got good fastball, good splitter, good slider, solid changeup. Like he's got more than just the one signature pitch. I think the big concern with him is kind of the same thing that's kind of held Kodai Senga back at times. It's just how well is he going to command the baseball? He really struggled with walks up until 2024 when it's really started to come down. And then 2025 in Japan, Imai's walk rate was really good. But before that, he had never had a walk rate below 4 per 9 innings. And most of the time it had been about 5. And so, granted, that's as a young player in Japan. He's pretty young. He's gonna be 28 this year. So, um, I think it's a good signing for the Astros. I think if you get this value, I don't know that you could find it might be a little riskier with him making the transition, but I don't think you could find a starter on the market that's likely to be like a 3-level starter, if not more, for this price. I really just don't think you're
Yeah.
going to find it. So I guess the opt-outs of MI kind of hurt you a little bit in that facet because, you're kind of stuck with a pretty good bit of money if he doesn't do well because he's just going to opt in every year. But I definitely think this is a good deal for Houston to bring him in, and that rotation just needs some more depth. So it'll be solid.
Yeah, and we're starting to get this trend of, especially this year, the surprise team kind of coming out of nowhere that's not been linked. Houston was not linked anywhere during this process. Nowhere.
Yeah.
Were they linked. And last second, it's there. The White Sox were not linked to Murakami until I think the night before he signed. That's when he did it. We'll talk about one here in a minute as well. That kind of same thing, right? So it'll be interesting to see how Imai comes over, but I do think that he will probably be pretty decent. And if I had to bet, probably opts out after the first year unless he gets injured. 18 million AAV it's not hard to beat that, especially if you're looking at 2 years, 36 to 2 years, 40 on the market. You're a pretty good starting pitcher. You're going to beat that most likely. So let's talk about Kazuma Okamoto now, which is another one. He went to the Toronto Blue Jays, which is a team that was not linked to him at all until he signed, basically. It's going to be very interesting. They're apparently going to figure out what to do with him during spring training, about where he goes, if he's going to play third. There's even been some talk he might play a little bit of second, first, some corner outfield here or there. They're going to figure that out there. He went to a 4-year, $60 million deal. No opt-outs in that deal, so your 4 years, $60 million, which I think is 15 per.
Yeah.
Now the interesting part is that they've been heavily linked to Kyle Tucker and Bo Bichette and Alex Bregman this offseason. Apparently this doesn't take them out of either one because you can move them around. I think it probably takes them out of Bregman. I would assume most likely Okamoto has to play third base at the end of it.
Yeah.
I do think there's a room for Bo Bichette to come back and play second base. I do think there's room for Kyle Tucker. They still need a corner outfielder. You can do that and put Addison Barger in left field. Kyle Tucker can play right. Ernie Clement at second. Okamoto at third. Pretty easy there. So it'll be interesting to see if they still do get one of those people. I still think they would probably be in on a bat, but we'll see. So anyways, if you don't know about Kazuma Okamoto, he is a Japanese player, primarily a third baseman, a little bit of outfield, can play some first as well. Most people thought maybe third or first was his home here. That he is a guy who has tremendous power, though. In the NPB, 33 homers, 31, 31, 39, 30, 41, 27. Then he dealt with some injuries this year in only 69 games, 15. But in those 69 games, he had a 210 WRC plus, hit 327. Is a guy who is pretty generally strikeout to walk rate, pretty comparable, pretty close to each other. I think he's going to be a pretty solid hitter. I think he probably turns into a guy who hits a 130-ish, probably WRC plus here, is going to hit you some homers. There's going to be an adaptation period. Obviously, that's going to happen, facing some more velocity, probably strike out more than his 11% that he did this year in Japan. But I think it's great. I think he's still going to be an impact bat. And the Toronto Blue Jays, they are not afraid to spend money this year. They got close to the World Series. They got inches away from winning it, and they're buying all in on this team.
Yeah, I like this deal. I think Okamoto is a pretty, for a player coming over from Japan, it's a little bit to me like the Seiya Suzuki thing when he came over, in that I think he's pretty safe. It feels like he's gonna be decent. There's not really a failure mode for him to just be terrible, unless he's got some just doesn't care, doesn't show up, whatever type thing. As long as he puts in the same kind of preparation, everything he's been putting in,
I think that's a great
feel like he'll do. I feel like he'll do well. the projection systems are showing him at around a 110 to 115 WRC plus. I think there's a little bit more in there than that, but I do think that that's kind of probably where he lands year one. He's going to be 30 years old, so age isn't really a problem for him. $15 million for a third baseman with a 110 to 120 WRC plus is solid value. The projection systems, in fact, are projecting him for about 3 WAR, which that'd be very good for that price. So, I guess there's probably going to be a little bit of concern about defense with him too. How well is he going to do on the infield? We've seen in the past that the Blue Jays don't care all that much about infield defense. They've had Bo Bichette playing shortstop and Vlad Jr. playing first base for a while. But I do think it's a solid signing for them, and I think he'll do. I think like I said before, I think Seiya Suzuki is kind of a good comp for his bat.
Yeah, I do think that's a really good comp there. I mean, Seiya Suzuki is up in the major leagues, a 127 WRC bat. I think that's right about what you're looking at in the meantime. A 270-ish hitter. Okamoto probably has a little bit more power potential. Seiya had 32 this year, which was his best year, but other than that, he was 20 or right around that mark. I think Okamoto's more of the 25 to 30-ish homer guy. So I think you're kind of looking at what like 2023 Seiya was, 280, but a little bit more homers right there, 3.1 more, maybe a little bit depending on defensive value, but offensively at least. So that's pretty interesting. All right, so we have a bunch of trades to kind of run through. Let me just say some of the smaller ones first. We won't really talk much in depth about those, and then we'll kind of get to the 2 other ones because we are almost at 50 minutes already, so we do want to kind of get going. Kansas City and Philadelphia made a pure reliever swap. Kansas City Royals got left-handed relief pitcher Matt Strahm for right-handed pitcher Jonathan Bowlen going back to the Phillies. Phillies wanted to clear some money. We had talked about that from Matt Strahm's contract before. They got a reliever, has 6 years of control, has some decent stuff. Matt Strahm fits the Angel Zerpa role that they traded to get Isaac Collins and Nick Mears was the other guy they got in that deal. Pretty solid for each side there. Anyways, a couple other moves, very small ones. Miami and Cincinnati. Dane Myers went to Cincinnati, going to be a platoon option there with J.J. Bleday, probably one of the outfield spots. Miami got Ethan O'Donnell back. He's an outfield prospect, I believe. That's where that was. And then after Miami traded away Dane Myers, they went to the Dodgers and they acquired Asteri Ruiz for Adriano Marrero. Marrero is a recent IFA guy, has some insane stuff. Apparently he has like a 35 RPM slider, which is kind of crazy to it with like 20 inches of horizontal movement. Anyways, Ruiz is a guy who obviously had time with Oakland, can steal a lot, came to the Dodgers, was pretty good down in AAA, didn't get much playing time up in the majors there. Anyways, the New York Mets traded Jeff McNeil to the Oakland Athletics with $5.75 million to get Yordan Rodriguez. I believe he's a pitching prospect. So another thing that has kind of been hinted at all offseason, the Mets wanted to clear Jeff McNeil's money. They didn't really have a clear spot for him. He goes to the Athletics, who have been looking for infield help this year. So anything on any of those before we get to the 3 other trades?
Not really. I thought the Matt Strahm for Jonathan Bowlen was interesting. Matt Strahm has been a borderline elite reliever the last couple of years, and Bowlen had a solid, rookie season last year, pitching in 34 games. But, for a team that's fully in their competitive window, the trading away a borderline elite reliever, lefty reliever is kind of, interesting to me. So that one was definitely weird. But
yeah, it was pretty weird.
Yeah, and I want to mention Jeff McNeil too. Playing in that ballpark could be big for him. Sacramento.
Yeah, so that's another interesting one. All right, so let's go to a 3-team deal, which was the Houston Astros, Tampa Bay Rays, and Pittsburgh Pirates. So the big deal of this one is the Pittsburgh Pirates acquiring second baseman Brandon Lowe, left-handed pitcher Mason Montgomery, and then outfielder Jake Magnum. Tampa Bay, for trading away those 3 guys, gets Jacob Melton and Anderson Brito from the Houston Astros. And the Houston Astros acquire Mike Burrows. Burrows is a pitcher who just got a little bit of starting experience this this year in the major leagues. They seem to think he has a lot of stuff in the tank there, and he's going to go right into their rotation. Melton was, for the Rays side, Melton was a former decent prospect for the Houston Astros. Never really got much playing time, 32 games this year for them, only a 22 WRC plus. Was not very good there. Brito is another young arm that they're pretty excited about in Tampa. I never doubt them when they get young arms that they're excited about. But the big side we should talk about this is the Brandon Lowe going to Pittsburgh. Brandon Lowe had a 114 WRC plus last year in 30 games, 31 homers there. He's going to be a consistent power bat for them at second base, only on a one-year deal, but then also getting Mason Montgomery, who is a hard-throwing left-handed reliever. I was excited for Montgomery this year. I thought he was going to be a lot better than he was, but struggles with walk rate and command there. So we'll see. But what do you think about this deal overall?
Well, I think it's a good deal for the Pirates. I mean, you add 3 major league pieces in one deal here. You don't give up a ton. I mean, I think Mike Burrows is he's a fine prospect, but he's not some top of the line prospect. He's been in the big leagues a little bit, was pretty good last year. But I don't think he's anything crazy. And then you look at Anderson Brito was from the Pirates too, right?
Yep. No, he was from the Astros.
The Astros. Yeah. So I mean, that's really all you gave up is Burrows, and Burrows could end up haunting him because he did do pretty well in the big leagues last year, but his track record in the minor leagues is not near what it was in the big leagues last year. So we'll see if he's able to repeat that. But Brandon Lowe, as long as he's healthy, solid player. He always has been. He's going to put you a 110 to 120 WRC plus. Typically has played a fine second base, but he's had his years. Like this year, his second base was not great. Never going to put up huge average numbers or own base percentages, but he's always going to slug for a second baseman. Put up 31 home runs in 2025 in 134 games, and then you've got Jake Magnum. Or Magnum. I don't think you really talked about him that much, but this guy is absolutely shelled AAA pitching over the last couple of years here. And he put up a 95 WRC plus in the big leagues last year in 118 games, plays a solid center field defense, and can really run. 27 stolen bases in 118 games. I think I wouldn't consider him. He doesn't have huge power or anything. He only hit 3 home runs last year. Never has hit for power. Yeah, no. But you look at a guy who can play good defense, add some speed, can get on base to a certain level. I think that's a great player to have on your team, and that's something as we mentioned before, the Pirates just need to lengthen their lineup and add big league bats because they have high end pitching already. They've got the one of the most difficult things to get in baseball is the ace, and they got it. So adding some rotation depth and just adding lineup depth and maybe having hopefully having one of their younger players who's a post-type prospect breakout. That's their path forward. And at this point, that hadn't happened, but they start adding 3 or 4 big leaguers at a time. That's solid. So, like it for them. Houston, I like it for Houston. They didn't give up a ton. They got a young pitcher with a lot of control who's shown some flashes in the big leagues. Tampa, I feel like you gave up a pretty good bit to get Melton and Anderson Brito, but.
Listen. There's one thing
I'm not arguing with Tampa. Never going to do it. I will point out Jacob Melton is a former second round pick, and he was pretty good in the minors last year. He only played in 32 games in the big leagues, 78 plate appearances. I know it didn't go well, but he was really good in AAA last year. Showed a lot of improvement over the previous year as well. So, and he's still only 25 years old, so he could. He's close to the big leagues guy who could end up doing pretty well. But yeah, I like this for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it's a great deal for Pittsburgh. And again, I'm all in favor of them going in when they have Paul Skeens and doing some stuff.
Yeah. And I'll add one more thing. Mason Montgomery could be a really good too. Because last year he he gave a pretty high ERA, but his peripherals weren't that bad. He needs to get that walk rate down. But if he gets that walk rate down just a little bit, like he's a guy that's got the good enough swing and miss to where he could run a 4 walks per 9 walk rate and be fine as a reliever. So it just needs to get that down just a little bit, and he could be really good.
Yeah, and the thing is going from that little ballpark too. Like the Tampa ballpark was also a pretty hitter friendly ballpark at times. So, all right, next one. Shane Baz got traded in division from the Tampa Bay Rays to the Baltimore Orioles. So the Orioles acquire Shane Baz. Tampa Bay acquires outfielder Slater DeBrun. I believe catcher Caden Bodine, or is he an outfielder? He's a catcher. Okay.
He's a catcher.
And then 2 other prospects, Michael Forett and Austin Overin, who are both like mid-20s prospects in Tampa Bay system now. But the other big thing is they got a comp pick round A. So Slater DeBrun, Caden Bodine, and then a comp pick round A are the 3 main pieces there for Shane Baz from the Orioles. This is one that I feel like it's a lot to give up for Shane Baz. But if Shane Baz hits, by hit, I mean he works out the way you think he's going to work out. He is top of the rotation stuff. There's games where he is absolutely unhittable. I remember a game watching against Kansas City this year. I think he went like 8 innings, 1 hit, and had like 11 strikeouts or something. He was just purely unhittable. But he has injury history and that stuff to him. So I'm going to look up that game because I want to remember what it was. By the way.
Yeah, I'll talk for a minute while you're looking for that. But this is weird for Baltimore for me because you gave up a lot. You gave up 2 comp picks from this year, which are basically first rounders, and Slater DeBrun and Caden Bodine. Bodine was round 1C, pick 2, so he was the 30th overall pick, and Slater DeBrun was the 37th overall pick. And you gave them big signing bonuses, $7 million combined between the 2 guys. Plus, you give up the comp pick for this year in round A. That's a lot to give up, and you basically just traded away Shane Baz when you traded Grayson Rodriguez. It's the same pitcher. Injury issues are the same. The stuff is elite. Haven't fully put it together at the big league level the same way, although they've shown flashes. Like it feels like they just traded away the same pitcher, and like I don't fully understand that. And they did get Taylor Ward back for that trade, so Taylor Ward was pretty valuable. So I guess this high end possible ace who's most likely never going to hit because he's injured a lot is still valuable. And I think Shane Baz is probably just a little bit more valuable than Grayson because last year he was pretty healthy. Pitched in 166 innings last year. For Baltimore, that's a lot to give up for a guy you just has never been healthy. I mean, so
you have
we'll
to believe.
see.
You just have to believe.
Yeah.
And they have to, obviously, I'm not saying us. They just have to believe that there's another gear in there. I found that game, by the way. It's June 26th at Kansas City. It was 8 innings, 3 hits, 9 Ks. He then followed that up with 7 innings with 11 strikeouts. So that's where I got the 11 from, was the next game from it. But that was his best game of the year at Kansas City. He was nitrous that game. Like, go if you want to see what Shane Baz can be, just go watch that game. That is what you could expect if at the top level. But then you look a little bit later against the White Sox, he went 4 innings, gave up 8 runs. That's what you're going to get sometimes. But they obviously think they can get more of that kind of Kansas City or the game against the Athletics for Shane Baz. All right. Last trade that we want to really hit on. Willson Contreras going to the Boston Red Sox. That is, again, another Red Sox to Cardinals trade. Chaim Bloom doing his Chaim Bloom things, going back to his old team, making trades. Stop me if you've heard that before. So Willson Contreras going to Boston with $8 million for pitcher Hunter Dobbins, Yoichiro Fajardo. I'm sorry if I don't not know how to say that one. And then Blake Aida. I'm not going to really say that I know much about Blake Aida or Fajardo. Hunter Dobbins got a little bit of major league time this year. was fine. This was more of a salary dump move from St. Louis, getting off the rest of the Willson Contreras money. He sent $8 million there with him. Boston was looking for another right-handed bat to play some first base. I think it's a pretty solid deal for each side. Boston still is in the market for a third baseman. St. Louis, you get off your old guy, you get some pitchers and another thing. Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. I think the big thing here is the money. And, Willson Contreras is owed a pretty good bit of money, and they're only getting $8 million in this deal. Boston is. So this is really it's largely a salary dump here. And, the St. Louis package they got back, it's interesting. Hunter Dobbins is in the big leagues. I don't think he seems to me like kind of one of those back end swing guys. Aida is just kind of a high A. He was at high A last year. He's fine, I guess. Not a huge prospect. Maybe has the ceiling of Hunter Dobbins. And Fajardo is a young guy and playing in A ball right now. He's 19 years old. So, they got a couple pieces back, a couple flyers back, somebody who might be able to help out on the back end of their rotation this year, and they dumped the salary of Willson Contreras, who's 33 years old. And like I mentioned before, the St. Louis Cardinals are about to go into some form of a rebuild here. And, Willson Contreras is not really the guy that you really need in that rebuild. One funny note on Contreras here, there's been so much talk from his time with the Cubs and from his time with the Cardinals about how inconsistent Willson Contreras is.
Turned himself.
Willson Contreras in the last 3 years, his WAR since he's been in St. Louis, 2.8, 2.7, 2.8. You can't get more consistent than that. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
2 years before that.
Yeah, 2 years before that, 2.7, and then he had the 3.5 his last year with the Cubs. And that's not a lot of games in most of those years too. So, career 122 WRC plus, his lowest. That would be his lowest since 2021 if he put that up again. And last year he was pretty good at first base defensively, especially considering, guy that's never played first base, transitioning there. Like he wasn't bad there. So, I think it's a good trade for Boston, who needed a first baseman. If you're willing to just spend money, I mean, that's a fine trade, and they didn't give up anything that I think is just going to hurt them badly in the long run. So I like this for Boston.
And I do think he'll do well in Fenway, especially with the Green Monster.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something he'll pepper. And he might be biased a little bit here, but as D West 9 Cubs says here, these guys know ball. We do. Thanks. All right. So real quick, let's hit on some of the other news that we want to talk about real quick. Ronnie Henriquez, back-end reliever for the Marlins, might be a reason why they signed Pete Fairbanks. Underwent UCL surgery, is going to miss all of the next season. He really had broken out this last year in 2025 was kind of his big year. Did really good all the way through, but he had a 1.3 WAR this year for a reliever, 73 innings, 12 strikeouts per 9. A 2.22 ERA, a 2.98 xERA, 3.15 FIP. Ronnie Henriquez was just flat out very good and dominant. It really sucks that he has to undergo a UCL surgery. They didn't say Tommy John; they just said some sort of UCL. So maybe it's the internal brace, something there. It's gonna suck to see Ronnie Henriquez not be out there for the Marlins.
Yeah, that's tough. I really hate to you really hate to see a young pitcher that's starting to find it get injured like that. But I mean, it's a guy. This guy is 5'10", 155, and he's throwing 97 miles an hour. You can almost say it was just bound to happen at some point. So hopefully he makes a full recovery and comes back strong in 2027. But sucks that he's going to miss 2026.
All right, so next one, pretty interesting here. Tyler Soderstrom signed a 7-year, $86 million extension with the A's. There's some escalators and options in there that can max it out at 8 years, $131 million. This is pretty big for the Athletics. They are going in and locking their guys up. You did it with Lawrence Butler. You have Brett Rooker. Now you have Tyler Soderstrom. probably need to hurry up and get one done with Nick Kurtz before that price keeps going up. But you're locking in a core when you go to Vegas
Jacob
in a
Wilson
couple
too.
years.
You need to lock him up.
Maybe Jacob Wilson. But Tyler Soderstrom this year at 125 WRC plus, 25 homers, 276 average, a 3.4 WAR. Sneaky about Tyler Soderstrom. He was a catcher, moved to first base. Now that Nick Kurtz came up, he moved to left field this year. He actually turned himself into a really dang good defensive left fielder as well. So very, very athletic. A lot of people don't realize how good defensively he was out there. So this is a very, very big deal. I love Tyler Soderstrom. I know David loves Tyler Soderstrom. I absolutely love what the A's are doing here.
Yeah, I think this is great. The A's, and I'm going to say something right now that is probably not something that anybody has said ever. I'm going to give John Fisher a little bit of credit because he said that when they decided to make this move, they were going to try to spend money and start spending money. And while that hasn't completely come to fruition yet, we haven't seen them go out and spend on a big free agent, although it's going to be hard for them to bring big free agents into that ballpark before they move. I mean, that's just going to be tough, even if they are willing to pay
especially
top dollar
pitchers.
for them. Yes, especially pitchers.
You might get hitters, but not pitchers.
Yeah, and they have brought in pitchers too. Like they've tried. I mean, they brought in and Jeffrey Springs. That was a trade, but he's not as cheap as
Yeah, but Springs had no option but to go there. I'm talking about like guys that want to go there.
True. That's true. But yeah, I mean, I love this for the A's. I mean, Soderstrom's a really good left-handed power bat, and you've got, as you mentioned, Nick Kurtz, while he hadn't signed an extension, 5 more years of control. You've got Jacob Wilson, 5 more years of control. Butler, Rooker. I mean, you've got Langoliers. Like, you've got a lot of guys in this lineup. If you look at their lineup, it looks like a lineup that could compete for the American League West next year, pretty clearly. But the pitching staff needs help. I mean, Severino is going to be, solid enough. I think Jeffrey Springs, solid enough. But if you think about, like they got a good prospect in Morales, but they've definitely got to get some help in their in their pitching staff. But they still got time to do that this offseason. And they have some other prospects too. In fact, I
know Jack Perkins is one they like a lot.
Yeah, he's and Gage Jump is a top prospect too. Like they've got some guys. So I mean, this A's team, if things go right for them, is it crazy to think that, with Tyler Soderstrom and Brett Rooker and Nick Kurtz and all these guys, like, that they could be competitive in that division? Jeff McNeil's been added now. Like, they could be competitive in that division. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any runaway favorites in that division right now. I mean, the Mariners, obviously, last year were great, almost made it to the World Series, but I don't think they're a juggernaut by any means. And I'm not sitting here saying the A's are going to win the division or anything, but they've really – go ahead.
I was going to say, it is fair to say, because even the Mariners were what they were last year, but they had a historic performance from an MVP candidate in Cal Raleigh. Like, are we sure he's going to back that up? I don't know. Now you're getting a full season of Josh Naylor, but you aren't sure. They still have other moves they need to do. They're missing a bat at third base, right? You just don't know. So I think it's fair to say I think they're a little off with the pitching staff. They're going to be able to slug, but you go into Seattle and that ballpark you can't hit. But yet you're having to face Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Brian Wu. Like, you're facing them. You're not going to hit much anyways. You're not going to stop them, though. Like, that's the hard part. So I do like what they're doing. I think they need more, but it is interesting to see them.
This can't be a finished product right now. I mean, you've got to add pitching. Like, you've got to add at least one more starter and a couple of relievers probably.
Oh, absolutely. All right, so a couple of Batflip Podcast goats have retired. Cy Heaney, if you know, you know. Andrew Heaney has retired. Got to let out a big sigh there.
Yeah,
that is. I think if there's one Batflip Podcast goat, it's Cy Heaney. Didn't have to buy his jersey, but he retired.
Yeah, Cy Heaney. He's pretty bad last year. So I'm not particularly surprised. Long time kind of back into the rotation guy. Had that the Cy Heaney joke for those who don't know. 2022 went to the Dodgers and was absolutely insanely good for like 2 months, and then got hurt.
Well, it wasn't even.
But
It was the fact of that year before was the Robbie Ray where they signed him and he won the Cy Young, and then it was like that offseason, everyone was like, "Well, if there's one pitcher that can do what Robbie Ray did, it's going to be Andrew Heaney." And then he signs with the Dodgers, and I was like, "If he wins the Cy Young, I will buy his jersey, like everything." Like,
but
yeah, that's the Cy Heaney joke.
Yeah, congrats to Andrew Heaney. His real name is Andrew. I don't think we've mentioned that. We've just called him Cy here. He pitched 12 big league seasons, and regardless of what your overall numbers were, what your overall results were, pitching 12 big league seasons is really an impressive feat. And congrats to him on a great career. Made a lot of money, and hopefully he stays around the game. So
here's the thing: he reached 10 years of service time, which technically means he will make a Hall of Fame ballot.
Yep.
He'll make a Hall of Fame ballot.
Oh boy.
Oh my goodness.
Him and his 11 WAR.
Dude, get Cy Heaney a Hall of Fame vote. All right.
Yep.
All right. Last one of the retirements. Joe Kelly retired. Another one. It's just whatever. Didn't play at all this year. He'd only said he was going to pitch for the Dodgers if he ever pitched again. They brought him in for a workout late in the year. Didn't like it, but he's a notable name, at least.
Yeah. He is responsible for probably the second most popular meme of the last half decade behind Castellanos hitting a home run in Cincinnati where he threw at Carlos Correa, then was mocking him running off the field.
And then he's like, nice swing, bitch.
Yeah. So Joe Kelly was a character and had some good years in there. But won multiple World Series titles. He won 3 World Series titles. 2018 with Boston, 2020 with LA, and 2024 with LA. 3-time world champion Joe Kelly. So congrats to him on a great career, and we'll see. I think he's definitely going to stay around the game. He's got that podcast, and he definitely will stay around the game. So we won't be hearing the last of Joe Kelly, I don't think, although he's not going to be pitching anymore.
All right. Last one is a guy you probably thought retired years ago because he hates the game of baseball, but that is Anthony Rendon. Got a buyout from the Los Angeles Anaheim Angels. I hate how we still have to do that, but anyways, Rendon was in the final year of his contract. I think was due $38 million this year. Was not going to play for them. Has had some hip issues still. I think he was still using a cane to walk around last time. I had heard saw something about him. So the Angels worked out some sort of a deal on a buyout with him that's going to defer the money over a few years, but it opens up all $38 million this year for the Angels, which is kind of interesting. And it's supposed to be spread over like a portion of 3 to 5 years. I think starting in, I think they said 2028 when it's supposed to start. So it opened up this year and next year for it. That basically carves the way of he'll still be on the active roster, but he won't play. So I don't know how that's going to work with roster spots like that. And he obviously is most likely never going to play baseball.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they can just throw him on the injured list with a hip and call it that. But because, I mean, he is injured. But I don't think – I mean, I don't understand what the Angels are doing here. Like, you're about to get out of this contract, and you're just going to prolong it and extend it further. I mean, and pay him deferred money. I mean, I know that, everyone jokes about the deferred money thing now. The Dodgers defer all their money and, their payroll, whatever. The Angels stink, and they're not going to be good this year. And I don't understand why the Angels are trying to defer payroll so they can add this year when they could just bite the bullet, let that money run off the books, and then have a lot of payroll open next year, have a full amount of that money payroll open next year and going forward. I don't understand why they're doing that. I think that there's one answer to why they're doing that, and the answer is Artie Moreno. But I do want to shout out Anthony Rendon, because before he signed with the Angels, which, hey, if I signed with the Angels, I'd probably start to hate baseball too. But before he started, before 2020, when he signed with the Angels, he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory. And the crazy thing too is, as he has done absolutely nothing the last 6 years of baseball, except he was able to be bad in 2020 in the shortened season. Actually, he was really good in the shortened season of 2020 with a 152 WRC plus his first year with the Angels. Since then, he has been awful, like every single year. Has barely played, and when he's played, he's been bad. He still has a 122 career WRC plus.
Well, it's because he hasn't played.
Right, but I mean, he's played 58 games, 52 games, 50, 47, 43, 57. He's played some. Like, he's not played near enough, but his numbers have been horrible. So, shout out to him for that 2017 to 2019, 2020 run where he was so good. And I don't know what happened there. Just injuries and, playing for the Angels kind of broke his spirit, I guess. I don't know, but I don't think he was ever. Yeah, I would say I don't think he was ever the biggest just baseball geek, but he obviously liked baseball. There's all this joke about Anthony Rendon hates baseball. He's played baseball his whole life. He liked baseball. If he didn't like baseball, he would have quit.
I just think he got a taste of the 2020 season being shortened, and he decided that's how he wanted every year to be.
Yeah.
And just go from there. I think his most notable thing on the Angels is how he hit the home run left-handed. I think that's going to be that's just going to be his most notable thing. It's funny enough, but yeah, it's something. So, all right, that is the last talking point that we have on the show. Looking forward, we will be still on our every other week schedule for now. Quick flips will happen if we get big moves. You would assume we need to start getting some big moves here. You still have Kyle Tucker, Bo Bichette, Cody Bellinger, Alex Bregman, Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez. I know I'm forgetting another pitcher in there.
Yeah.
Who am I forgetting? Let me pull up our sheet.
Blinken.
I know. It's going to be of course. This is who you're forgetting. Idiot. Well, Eugenio Suarez is not a pitcher, but Gallen. That was the other one I was looking for. Is that Gallen? We're still waiting on all those people to sign. So we're going to have some stuff to do. So be sure to tune in. Make sure you're subscribed here.
Yeah. Watch out for trades too. There's been a lot of rumors the last day or two about a pretty big trade maybe going down soon. Not one that's just earth shattering, but a pretty big trade. So keep an eye on that too.
Yeah, we'll see on that. So thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of the Bat Flip podcast, and we will catch you guys back 2 weeks.